morning. Sometimes we feel worried about doing something new, worried about that the world around us is changing and we no longer know what is going on or what some words and phrases actually mean anymore. We can't get to grips with our mobile phones, or the streets around us look very different to how they were. Change can be quite scary. I'm standing here this morning doing something very new, and it's daunting and more than a little terrifying. It can feel good to hold on to the past, which we know and feel safe with. The story of the wedding at Cana says a lot to me about change and the importance of embracing new things while valuing the old. Jesus shows us that although the past is important, we should also embrace change and new ways of doing things, as they can be good or even better than they were. Weddings back in those days would lasted weeks. People celebrated in large numbers with lots of food and drink. They were extravagant affairs with lots of catering. The guests would have been there in hundreds, the whole of the village, and days and nights would have been bustling, noisy, jubilant. The new relationship was celebrated by the extended family and lots of local inhabitants. There was a real party atmosphere and the revelry would last for days. We also like to eat and drink at weddings, although they're mostly shorter, tamer affairs nowadays, on the whole. Today, many people spend many thousands of pounds on feeding and watering their guests on their special day, so that tradition lingers. Nowadays, we're often exhausted after a whole day of partying at a wedding, aching to take off our heels, but then they really knew how to celebrate. Maybe the people had to have some good things and positivity in their lives, so went all out for the fun things. So when the wine ran out at the wedding, it was a disaster. The wedding celebration would have stuttered to a halt and the guests would have been extremely disappointed. What sort of wedding is it without any drink? Jesus was a guest at the wedding with his mother. He was reluctant to help when his mother told him the party had run out of wine. He was not yet ready to start his ministry and perform a miracle, it would seem. But his mother, the older generation, a link to the past, asked him to help. He obeyed his mother, as every good Jewish boy should. Jesus was not yet ready for the change and the new ways, but he did it anyway and embraced it. He showed us that it can bring great joy and celebration. He showed us that even if we are nervous about change or scared of doing something new, we should do it anyway. Jesus picked six stone jars used for the rites of purification by the bride and groom during their wedding, when they would be immersed in water, and performed a miracle by turning the water they were filled with into wine. Not just the usual wine the guests had been drinking all day, but the best quality wine. The best wine would normally have been drunk first. I think the fact Jesus used these old jars, normally used for the traditional Jewish practices of purification, is relevant. The old ways of Judaism were still important to Jesus, and he didn't want to forget them. However, Jesus incorporated the new into these old practices by turning the water in them into wine. The old and new practices were married, like the couple at the wedding. Weddings also lead to new life, with children being born from the union. This new life is celebrated here in church with babies and children welcomed in with baptisms. Having a church full of children can be a good sign for the future, a church which is growing and will continue for many years to come. We do like to hold on to the past too, though. I personally think history is hugely important. We not only learn from history, but it shaped who we are both as individuals and as a society. Do you remember when the statues of the ponies situated at the fringes of the village were stolen? Someone came and removed them from the plinths and made off with them. It was upsetting because they were statues and recognisable landmarks, but it was also upsetting because they signified our history, the history of the village with its pit and farm industries. The pony statues are like a part of our identity. We hold on to our past and identity with pride. Sometimes, like Jesus at the wedding, we're happy to stay in the past, to hold on to the time and ways we know, not moving on. It feels safe. But Jesus did move forward and shows us there are new ways of living and being which can be better. While I was writing this sermon, my computer managed to delete it. I think it was my computer, to be honest, it might have been me. I raged and ranted at my poor computer for doing me dirty. I became part Luddite, wanting to destroy technology and go back to using a pen and paper. If I get a new phone, I virtually throw it at my husband to set up for me, as I'm too scared to do it myself. But then I take a breath and reflect on the message here. If Jesus is reluctant, but eventually starts his ministry in earnest, then maybe I can throw away my quill. There's a lot of change around us at the moment. The city centre is being regenerated, with old shops closing down, new restaurants and bars and entertainment venues springing up in their place. It feels like our way of life is changing. We might long for a return of the shopping centres and the leisure centre in town, but spaces around us are still changing. We shop online more and more, and our towns are becoming centres for fun and revelry like the wedding reception back in Cana. There are changes in church too, with new people attending. We still have the old vicar and me here as a new minister in training, although of course the vicar is years younger than me. At the same time, the people who live and work in our city are changing too. People are moving in from other places, me included. It can be exciting to see change like this with new businesses and new people who seem very different from the people and places we're used to seeing. But it can be daunting. It can feel unknown. People are coming from places we do not know, with different food and religions and customs. But Jesus teaches us that we may not be willing and eager to embrace a new future, but we should. If we join the old and the new together, like the water and the wine, we have the best results. He used the jars at the wedding to fill with wine and begin his ministry. He embraced the future head on and shows us that it may take some bravery or make us uncomfortable at times, but we should do it too. If Jesus hadn't had the courage to do it, then where would we be now? And at the wedding in Cana, the best wine was saved to last. Maybe the future we are stepping into is also better than what has been before.